Hello and happy Friday to you. This is episode 8 of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. This is Jared, and we got Isaac on the line, and we want to welcome you to this latest episode on Friday. Goodness, what is
the 18th?
The 18th?
17th.
17th, just moving right along. Episode 8. Here we go, man. Let's jump right in. We're going to move this along pretty quick. Today is a market update report, man. We're going to take a quick look at some of the quick numbers and how is it relevant to our listeners. And then we're going to jump into a overview of how life has been impacting everybody with this new COVID lifestyle. So, Isaac, we usually have a theme. Have any idea what this means?
Let's see. There's a I forgot what you call those things. A house, a mask, heart with a question mark, and a broken heart with a question mark. I'm gonna assume it has something to do with quarantine at home and COVID. Not quite sure about the hearts.
Dude, if there was one more emoji, I'd have one that said nailed it, dude. What's quarantine life been like for you?
There you go.
Yeah. Has it been great or bad?
Loving it or hating it, right?
There you go.
All right. Got it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is perfect. It's World Emoji Day, so
yes.
Nailed it. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, well, it's better than the other one I was thinking of, which is what's your favorite boba tea? But hey, whatever.
Not a fan of boba, but
you know, so I mean,
we're probably gonna get some subscribers just for that.
I have been forcefully exposed to it. My wife actually bought some like 2 months ago and made it, and it was really good. But we've been, doing the run every few days, and you got to get the right flavors.
Maybe that's what it is. I'll just stick to my coffee. By the way, shout out to our friend and client, Josh,
man,
for such a great success. Take it easy. Coffee roasters right off of in Chinatown, where you could stop by and get some boba tea as well.
Yes.
But we were out there on Wednesday, and coffee's amazing. I bought some coffee to make here at home, and it was amazing as well. So
I ordered I think it's the espresso fizz, and it is what you think it is. It is a bubbly spritzer. And it had a little citrus to it, which is fantastic because that's usually when I drink coffee. I'll have my espresso, and then sometimes I'll rotate through different flavors. But like someday it's the espresso with seltzer water and a lime. Fantastic. So let's jump right into this market update report. We're going to make it real quick and easy for everybody. We know that the national inventory is really tight. We know that the housing market has rebounded pretty quick, but the hot news of the moment are interest rates. Historic lows, broken a 30-year record these past couple of weeks, dropping the 30-year interest rate to 2.98%. This is straight out of Freddie Mac's charts, and this is current as of today. So that's the scale of what you're looking at, folks. If you are concerned about rates, well, it's the lowest it's ever been, and probably will be, simply because in where we are at right now, as you've seen over the last 20 years, it's just been staying pretty low, and that is where it's at right now. So take advantage of what you got. Don't wait for it to get any lower, because you really know how much lower are they going to go on that. There's really no reason for that.
One thing to keep in mind is that the rate is more important, in my opinion, than the price of the home. So I'd rather pay a little bit more to lock in a much lower interest rate, because how much lower is it going to go? Like if you're expecting it to crash, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But if I'm like, hey, I'm going to wait till next year to buy because I'm going to get it for $10,000 cheaper, but I'm going to get a 1% interest higher, then you're going to pay that 10 grand difference within a matter of a couple of years in just in interest. And so keep that in mind when you guys if you guys are debating, if you guys are thinking about it, because look at that graph right there. In the 1980s, interest rates were up to 21%. Yes, homes were 190,000, $150,000.
Yep.
But that would have been a what, a $2,200 payment on a $150,000
Right.
home. Right now, you can get a $300,000 home for $1,600, $1,700.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the other factor that the economy and people look at are jobs. Obviously, a lot of folks have gotten off of unemployment. Overall, the return to work has been great, simply because things have opened. Um, a slide to be aware of, folks, is in reference to the core unemployment rate. Now, 10.5 here in this scale represents what was in 2010. That is what was the core unemployment rate at that time. Even after all of this over the last 4 months, all the blues, 5.5%, 3.7, 5.9% is where we are at today, even after everybody going back to work. And that's because there's still not everybody open. And with the economy shooting back, we expect everything to kind of level off, at least where it's at.
Especially in the hospitality department, which we're big on. A lot of folks weren't claiming unemployment because they were being paid, and now, unfortunately, some of them were laid off. So, I guess that's where that 0.9 increase is at.
Yes. And now that we're seeing a second round of slowdowns or slowing of openings, as they're calling it, pay attention. We'll keep on top of the news and help interpret that. But we know that there's a lot of folks out there who have been electing the use of forbearance, even if they haven't necessarily needed it. They've been exercising that aspect of that option because the rules of forbearance this year, as a result of COVID-19, allows them to repay or get caught up and not have the penalty of waiting another year to get qualified for a loan. And so while that is a feature people have been using, one of the other reasons is they're kind of using it in a strategic opportunity, right? If they hold off on a mortgage payment, they might be able to pay off other debts like credit cards and other, miscellaneous things that they can get caught up on it, which is a smart move. Reason being is if they need to sell, 60% of everybody in the marketplace has equity in their home. It's an option they can exercise to get out if for some reason, worst case scenario.
And
So this, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off.
Jump in.
One thing I read on the forbearance is that a lot of people are using it as a safety net. So they've actually put that money away, and they're prepared to make those payments when they do get that balloon payment, which is super, super smart. That's exactly the intended use, because a lot of them went back to work and they're okay. We don't need to default on this balloon payment. But for those that did need to use that money and don't have the ability to repay it, right there, 77% at least 20% of equity in their home. So,
and if you're a renter, right, and you receive stimulus money of some sort, or you've been able to save up in this time, this has been an opportunity for some to be able to save up and use it towards a purchase. That's one of the reasons why we have such buyer demand, is people recognize the value of having a house or their space that they control, and they want to get into that space, and that's one of the reasons why we've seen an increase in demand on the buyer side, and to continue to pick up from the economy. People are getting back to work, people getting back to recognizing that we just need to be able to do the things that matter to us, right? This slide shows how many showings have really increased here over the last few weeks. Obviously the bottom of the barrel drop at the end of March, early April, and just a straight up spike rise beyond what it was in March and February. As far as the recovery index, we see buyer demand. We see a lot of people getting back to work. We see a lot of folks reaching out for purchasing, but the inventory is still limited. This index here shows 4 different aspects of it. You've got your buyer demand, the available supply, of course, pricing and timing on the market. Those are all the variables that we look at when we talk about the housing market. Just on a national scale here, and so getting back to this February baseline, because you remember the first quarter of the year we had some phenomenal numbers going into March, and then of course everything stopped, which is what you see here, in the April area. But we are back to where we are basically in February, and with us being in the middle of summer, we are back to a strong market in real estate. Um, so overall, we do have still limited inventory. We're seeing new listings come on nationally, and as far as the actual like supply chain, we're looking at more properties overall nationwide coming on board. When we take a look at the year over, we see a shift in what it was a year ago. On a previous market report, I showed you how there was literally a sell-off here in Las Vegas from June, July of last year to February. And that just means our inventory just was depleted. We are seeing that alternative direction happen here, which is good. This is the direction we need to go. Keep getting those listings and providing the inventory to our client, to buyers, and so that's really good news. It does raise questions as to what kind of properties people are looking for. This is a question that our listeners we'd love to get your input on. What type of property are you interested in, right? Are you, for many folks, it was being closer to the city. For others, they want to be in the suburbs. We're seeing nationally the response being there is more interest now in suburban life as well as even rural or greater property areas. Why do you think?
and so yeah, and we posted a video a week or two ago. This ranch home here in Las Vegas, listed right under 600,000.
Right.
And we got a lot of interest on that, and everybody loved it. And that's exactly, we had a couple people from California comment and reach out, and they were just kind of amazed at what they can get here. But it all comes to the quality of life. Unfortunately, these tract homes, these communities are really tight, not too much of a backyard, especially when you're in quarantine and you're trying to keep your family safe. You're looking, you wish you had a bigger backyard. You wish you had a little bit more space, especially if it's a family of 4 or 6. You wish you guys everybody had their own space. So no doubt that rural and suburban is going to be where everybody wants to live, get away from the city.
Definitely seen it here. So locally here in Las Vegas, our numbers are showing kind of a similar trend. Last month, we had 2,400 units sold altogether on the new home purchases. There was, new listings that came on 3,244 on that. As far as our actual,
sorry, could you go back onto that one?
Yeah.
On the back of so that's just only 2.1 months of inventory, and that's just something to keep in mind for any sellers. So your house, if you're interested in selling and need to sell, and you're afraid that it's not going to sell, we had a seller that we just closed yesterday. She was very, very concerned that her house wasn't going to sell because of the pandemic. 14 days on the market and it sold. So just something to keep in mind for those sellers who need to sell. This is the time that you're going to get top dollar for it and sell super quick.
Yeah. 2.1 months of inventory. Now, this snapshot is all of Las Vegas. We're going to narrow it down to specific areas of town, and you're going to see how that adjusts based on different areas. But yes, excellent point that the inventory is 2.1 months. What does that mean to our sellers? A neutral market is ideally anywhere between 4 to 6 months of inventory, which means there's a proper balance between buyer demand and inventory of homes. The fact that we are at 2.1 months is what I consider to be a strong seller's advantage in terms of being able to sell the property for a price that you're looking for. And we could calculate that based on what the median activity is or what the local activity is for your specific area. And so It, like Isaac said, means it can be sold. Absolutely. Number of units closed, single family market, single family homes, 2464, as we said. Our median closing price, 325 throughout the valley. And that's what was advertised through GLVAR.
And that was it was like what 305 at the beginning of or at the end of February.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so a lot of people were like, I'm just gonna wait because prices are gonna drop. You know, I'm gonna get a killer deal on it. And so now they're paying more. And so just something to keep in mind for those who keep thinking that the economy is gonna crash.
Or home prices are going to drop.
Oh, how much? Yeah. And so it just like I mentioned earlier, you got to pick one or the other. Do you want to pay a lower price for a home, or do you want to pay a lower interest rate? Remember, if your plan is to pay it in 30 years, that interest rate is going to stick with it for 30 years. The home price, yeah, it's just, you can make that money up with the interest rate if you get a good interest rate.
So remember that chart where going into the first part of the year, just it's phenomenal on the housing index. We're having phenomenal activity in January and February. And people were saying, oh, prices are getting out of hand. How far can this go? And here we are, 6 months later, and we went up $20,000 just on our median home price
In the middle of a pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic,
Yeah.
There's just nothing to support a drop in housing prices at the moment. It's going to take a lot more apparently for that to happen.
And keep in mind that that's because lending is solid. They're not giving away the loans.
Yeah.
The buyers are still. As a buyer, you have to prepare yourself for the paperwork that comes involved with it, because you are going to have to prove how where your money's coming from, how much you make. It's not just walking into an office like you could have done in 2005, 2006, right, and said, "Hey, I make $200,000 a year." Then great, okay, that's how much we're going to write down. Here's a loan. Go buy a house. And it's not like that. It's, there's some hoops that have to be jumped in order to get this loan, but it's for your protection. So the lender knows that you can actually afford this home, and in any economy, I guess.
The fact that we're seeing, 3,200 listings come on last month is a good sign. Again, supporting that same difference in direction that we need to go. Back to the sellers, this is a fantastic opportunity to be able to get it on the market and get it sold quickly, which, as you can see, we have 2.1 months worth of inventory. We've seen listings last 60 days from time of list to close. It's very possible to do that, especially if your home is prepped and ready to go on that. When we break it down into local segments within the city of Las Vegas proper has a median list price, folks. List price is different than sale price, of $385,650. The price per square foot is about $184 per square foot. As far as the activity goes in North Las Vegas, we see the median list price going for $308, and the average price per square foot is $157. But a quicker sale in North Las Vegas, and that has everything to do with affordability. There's a different price point that people can get into when we're talking about entry level.
And something to keep in mind with North Las Vegas specifically, there's I categorize it into two North Las Vegas, right? So we have the older original, we'll call it the OG footprint. North Las Vegas of that portion, which is going to be built, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then you have everything that's newer, built late 80s. And then there's still all brand new construction, specifically like Revere in 215. Allianz is getting new buildings. So there's a lot of new construction. So you got everything from like a mid-century to a brand new, custom built home just for you. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your shopping, because a lot of people are like, well, I got to live in Henderson because I want a new home. Well, you can get a brand new home in North Las Vegas.
Yes.
Pay $60,000 to $80,000 less than you would in Henderson. And we'll see that in the next graph.
And so one of the conferences I was on this week, the new home builders, three of the local builders were on this panel. One of the questions that they were asked was, is there any difference in inventory or style of home or community that you're developing, whether you're in Henderson or North Las Vegas? And absolutely not. You can get floor plans that are in Henderson and in North Las Vegas the same, different price points. But
Last year, I toured one right next to McDonald's Ranch. Beautiful community in Henderson, up high on a hill, overlooking the city. Great property. Actually, the property didn't have any city views. You actually had a mountain view, so it wasn't like it was anything special. And I believe their starting price was in the mid 400s. And looking for another client in the Northwest Sky Point area, uh same exact model, same builder, 380,000. So there was like a $75,000 price difference, and then you could get the same exact home, same layout, everything, just moving away from Henderson. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and speaking of Henderson, the median list price in Henderson is going to be $491.95. Price per square foot, $200 per square foot. About the same time on the market, there's obviously strong demand there to be able to move property in that area, but there's that's kind of it broken down into different segments of town for Las Vegas.
And so just that's something to keep in mind when you're shopping. A lot of people will focus on the home price. So they say, I don't want to go over 300. I don't want to go over 400. But in reality, it's what you feel comfortable paying a month. So if your monthly payment is, you don't want over $1,500 or $2,000, then consider other areas like North Las Vegas or Las Vegas. Northwest, you can get a great deal. But hey, if Henderson is where you want to live, then just be prepared that you're going to pay a little bit more, and you're going to actually pay top dollar for it because it is Henderson. It's a fantastic place to live in.
Absolutely. So that does it for the market report, but it does raise a lot of questions for some of our listeners. And when it comes to home life, we've been, spent the last, 4 months learning more about our home. So the question that was raised, and really we'd love to be able to get some feedback from you, is what has been your experience in this pandemic? Like, what things have you learned on it? Back to the home, before we get to answer that question, the last slide we've got here is in terms of our home, what features of the house are most important. And here's what that response was to a survey earlier this year: home office, a Zoom room,
I agree,
or an audio pad.
100%.
It's been the top response for most people, obviously, but there's folks, and actually, you and I have talked about this, being able to soundproof a room, so that you can not have the kids stomping on the second floor, blasting the TV in the next room, and have some peace. That's why I wear headphones, by the way, so it helps me focus. So what about you, Isaac? What's been the most important thing you've learned?
The home office, definitely. I mean, we've been working from home for the last few years, but there was always that ability to just go somewhere else. When I needed a little bit more peace, I can go into a coffee shop and just kind of, throw on headphones and kind of forget about it. So kind of having those places closed and being stuck at home, having to do more things here at home, and having everybody at home was kind of a little bit more of an eye-opening of, I would like a bigger office, where I could spread out a little bit more.
You just throw a couch back there, man. You got some room. You got some wall space.
But then I would feel cramped, and so that's kind of where I'm like, man, I wish I had an office with a view to the backyard or something. City view.
Interesting.
How about you?
So I mean, working virtually it's just been part of my life for 15 years. Having a home office, it's obviously been critical. The interesting things that I've discovered that most people are learning about, it's good solid fiber optic bandwidth on your internet. Super important. I'm I love sound, and I'm also really like challenged with certain sounds. What was that acronym you used earlier? That right now is a trend that Susie showed you, something like that, with the bags and the
Oh,
microphone.
ASMR.
ASMR. Okay, so like I have that kind of not cringing response to certain sounds, right? And so it's definitely like you said, being in close proximity to an extended period of time with different things. It's required me to exercise a lot of self-control. So personally, I've been working through the whole component of joy. Like, what do you find joyful? I will say that I have been literally working for this moment. I've been like trying to, build my family life, build my home life, to be able to be prepared for this moment where we could spend all day together. And okay, so you spend all day together. What are you going to do? You got to raise your kids. You got to help educate them, and have clean kitchen, have that life balance of doing everything fun. It's been a fun exercise for me. I like it. Um,
So you would say that it hasn't been a
Challenge.
challenge.
Oh, it's definitely had its challenges, like trying to figure out how to teach kids. I mean, I like teaching, and I like teaching people who like to learn. Um, it's just different with children.
Of course, I can't imagine. But
Yeah.
I mean, you had to do some changes, right? You figured out that you needed extra desk space.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So here's desk space. Speaking of desk space, right? So the kids got sent home. Um, they sent them home with Chromebooks. Super grateful about that. Um, my boys, they're pretty sharp. They get stuff pretty quickly. They've learned to listen at school, and now they're stuck at home. And what am I going to let them work on the counter, or the kitchen counter, or the table, and put their mess there? No. So we went and found some desks, the old school desks from the 50s and 60s, and got them all spruced up. So now they have their own school desk in the living room, and that's their space where they put all their stuff. And it's their job to follow their routine like they would at school. Get your stuff, pull it out, you're done with it, put it away, and have that order.
Are you doing summer school?
No, when school ended, I like it was so that's the challenge I faced. I had to accommodate my schedule, and it literally occupied 5-6 hours of my day just trying to help them work through their stuff. And then when summer came, I said, "Man, it's vacation. Let them enjoy it."
Yeah.
So I remember how much fun it was just to not do anything,
Right.
and so I've just been using that as my reason for the moment. But the nagging thought for me has lately been, I kind of feel like there's that part of me that you just want to keep growing and doing things, but you're not enjoying the moment. So I have to start thinking about what the next step is for them, uh, educationally. So school hasn't even decided. CSCCSD hasn't even decided what they're doing yet. I guess today's the last day for surveys for parents. Well, that's a good point, by the way. Surveys for parents, last day, CCSD, as to what your option is. You're gonna send your kid back to school, or are you gonna do the schooling at home?
And and I can't just I understand that this is the way that they can mitigate some of the risk for the kids, but I can't imagine the parent that's already struggling, that cannot afford or take a risk of not showing up to work because there's thousands of people that are in line to take that job. And so um to me it's like, you know you got to pay for somebody to take care of them, or if you're lucky enough to have a parent or friend that's offered to take care of them for you for free, then great. But for those parents that don't, that's just big. And so I like I said, I understand CCSD's mentality of trying to mitigate some of that risk, but at the same time, some of these parents are going to struggle and going to see that have a hard time with that.
I know, man. So I was listening to their conversation 2 weeks ago regarding all this, and I can't imagine being in their shoes. They provide a valuable service in allowing the kids to be in their space, for 6 hours, 7 hours a day, and at the same time teach them, like teach them the ropes of life. But that's now a threat to the quality of life, right? And they have to make this judgment call of how do we get all these kids in here and keep everybody safe, you know?
And I think honestly, it's a lose-lose situation. I mean,
Yeah. And
if
that's what's so hard, man.
because if you put them in the classroom and somebody gets sick, there's always going to be somebody that's going to say, well, this is why we should have gone homeschool, right? But then, but if you keep them out and keep them all at home, they're going to be like, well, I can't afford for a babysitter for 5 days or 3 days or whatever. So there's always a lose-lose, and
Yeah, man. I mean, and now they've got the added pressure of the federal government jumping on their back just for political reasons. It's just really, really challenging. And I mean, I was at the store yesterday. I even saw the principal for our school, and she's, her comment to me was I just wish they would make a decision, or even better, ask the teachers. And yes, please get the input from the teachers because they know best. They deal with the kids. They know how to, be ideal. I mean, that's been the conversation in the house all week is what are we doing? What's our stand? And as much as we'd love to be able to get back to some sort of normal, like the kids said, I want to go back to school. I want to go back to school. I want them to go back to school. But the reality is it the right thing to do right now?
And this is a new normal. So unfortunately,
for now, it's a temporary.
Well, we just have to kind of adapt and kind of go with the punches.
Yeah.
So what have you missed, or what would you like? Going back to our question, is there something that you noticed that you could have had in your house that you would have liked to have in your house? Your house is pretty spacious.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we got this place because it had everything we were looking for. I mean,
If there's something you could change, what would it be?
That required me to sell the house and move? More land.
More land.
Yeah. Yeah. Our first house we had here had 12,000 square feet of land. It was massive. I loved it. I just loved it. It's a lot of work, but I loved it.
You would like to go back to something like that, something on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be great, even better, because we have an English Mastiff, and 6,000 square feet with a pool is not.
Well, I mean, we're on 4,000 square foot on a 1,600 square foot house. So,
yeah.
My dog doesn't have a lot of room to run.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely land. I think size of home for us is fine, but definitely a little bit more of a backyard would have been nice. So
yeah, definitely a little more land would be fun.
Yeah.
I had the chance to live back east when I was a kid, and I mean, two of our houses bordered state forests. I mean, if you've ever been to the East Coast, you know that there's trees galore and rivers and, rolling hills. And this place that we lived in Connecticut had, I mean, one of our houses had a waterfall, river, creek dividing our house from the state forest. To me, when I say land, that's what I'm envisioning. That's what I would love to do, man, just to have that. You know anywhere here in Vegas where we could do that?
To the northwest, or over by Lone Mountain, you could.
And I'm not referring to a wash, like a river wash.
Lake Las Vegas.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. Yeah, man. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, just land, I think. Unfortunately, these constructor homes, these builder homes are 10 by 10 rooms, 10 by 12 if you're lucky. If you're really lucky, you'll get a 14 by 12 room, one room. And so that's kind of one of the things that I wish, homes had a little bit more of a bigger bedrooms, maybe like 14 by 14s, and then, maybe a 14 by 16 bedroom. But then we're talking about custom homes, and now we're talking about $400,000 homes.
Right. Rates are low.
Hey, don't convince.
Right on. Yeah. Doesn't take much to twist your arm. Just kidding. Well, man, did we cover all of our topics that we were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Traveling is a little bit of a halt right now, so um, so then, new report. So just something to keep in mind for any visitors, any employees working at the casinos. Definitely be careful. Take the extra precautions. Take this seriously. 143 or 146 people that visited Vegas
Yep, positive.
were or got COVID. So definitely keep that in mind. CDC extended its ban on U.S. cruises through September 30th. Something cool though, American Airlines and JetBlue formed a partnership that is going to allow for a little bit of a quicker recovery on that end. So that's a really good reason. And Morgan Stanley and Bank of America are showing reasons to be optimistic about the economy. So there was one other thing we were going to talk about or that I wanted to mention, but I can't quite remember at the moment.
What was the palindrome?
I think it was more on. Oh yeah, the Republican National Committee is downsizing its plans for their convention in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, and then Brazil.
Was that because of the coronavirus? Or
Yeah,
was it because that they had to wear masks, or people don't want to wear masks, or people do want to wear masks but not show up to the Republican National Convention
probably both.
in Florida?
All of the above.
Uh, and is that from
Nope.
governors in Texas?
Florida is just I don't know what's going on over there, you know. So I'm glad we're not nearby it. Texas is not so much behind either. So,
Right.
um, but
Yeah.
Brazil suffered 76,000 deaths, and India recorded a record number of new cases. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, 32,695 coronavirus cases, um, biggest daily spike there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Went the completely opposite direction that they intended.
yeah,
So back to each of us having to make our own decisions that our own contribution. I think I'm leaning towards at least doing the homeschooling with the kids just for this one year. It's one from what we can see. If this is 1 year, great. Maybe two, fine. Beyond that, well, then I'm gonna figure something else out.
and so that's the importance of just a simple thing of wearing a mask, of just washing your hands, of just doing the normal standards. I mean, um, it's always boggled my mind, but it's even more so in these times when I go to a public restroom, wash my hands, and I see somebody walk out without washing their hands. And it's like, why? Like, even if there wasn't COVID-19, why would you even consider doing that? Especially at a restaurant. Like, why would you go and eat after that? Like, it's just
Right.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so put on a mask. And one other thing, I know that some of us are more passionate about it than others, but just remember to still be respectful. I was at Target the other day, and a guy was like, this lady's not wearing her mask, and he's like kind of started causing a scene just about that.
Mm.
And it was just a simple, comment that he could have made to one of the employees, like, hey, just want to let you know that there's somebody over there, and describe the person and say they're not, doesn't look like they're wearing a mask. You might want to let them know. But he made such a big deal, went after their, like, I'm like, that's just uncalled for. Then you're just putting yourself into that position where you're going to get into an argument, and uh, you know things can get escalated where it could just been a simple matter of letting somebody be aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just keep in mind that it's all about how we communicate can mitigate some of that response.
Yeah, and don't make it a political issue.
And don't make it a political issue.
It's just the dumbest thing. The worst thing to deal with is politics, and especially like in a workplace environment. But now that the intent is to politicize or polarize everything, it is not a healthy thing for anybody, for that matter. Just reason, logic, be kind to everybody.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And people forget that those businesses are private property. They have the choice to
That's right.
implement any rules.
That's
So
right.
if you walk into my house and I tell you you need to take off your shoes and you don't want to take off your shoes, then you don't walk
It's your
into my house. It's
it's
my
your
house.
constitutional right to say, hey, I don't want to take my shoes off. Okay, well, be
Then
gone.
don't come into my house.
Right.
Not saying that that's the case, but I'm just saying, just think about it how it would be in your home. There's certain things that you like or you don't like, and that if somebody were to disrespect that, you would not like it, especially if you're a stranger walking into, or you have a stranger walking into your house, and you have a specific rule. You wouldn't want that. So. If you put yourself into that mentality when you walk into these establishments and they tell you, hey, you need to wear a mask, just put on the mask, put on the damn mask. So there's no arguing it. If you don't like it, just don't visit that establishment.
Mm. Agreed, my brother.
All right, that wraps it up for this episode 8 of
Yes,
our
sir.
podcast.
Ah. Quarantine life, how's it worked out for you? Good, bad?
Let us know in the comments. Let us know what you would like in your home, what you like, what you don't like. If there's something you could change, what would it be?
Drop your comments in the section below. All right.
Did you mention
That
our
does it.
sponsor?
Take it easy, dude. By the way, that's an excellent coffee shop. So we're gonna figure out how to get in touch with Josh and be able to talk to him a little bit further on that. So upcoming episodes to be aware of. We're gonna be talking to other small business owners here in Las Vegas, getting their input on how COVID has impacted their life and how they've been able to adapt as well as thrive in our current economy. So we're looking forward to that. Next week, if you have some suggestions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us on any one of our social outlets. We'd love to be able to hear your feedback or answer questions that you have specifically. Care to join us? We'll even invite you on the show. That does it for this episode 8 of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. We want to thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to any of the outlets that we communicate through. And love to talk to you further about any other options you have, man.
They're going to be down here below for all our social media links. So definitely follow us on pretty much every social media site that we have.
All right. Well, that does it. And thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a fantastic day. And please be kind, don't politicize, and have fun with everything that you do in life.
Wear your mask.
Yes.
You guys.
We out.